My name's Steve Gotts. I'm the head of business at DIFC Innovation Hub. And I'd like to welcome you to this episode of DIFC Unplugged. Akshat, can you maybe give us a brief intro of kind of who you are and what Camb.ai is?
I'm Akshat. I go by Ak. For those who find it easier to say that, I'm the CTO and co-founder at Camb.ai. And Camb.ai is one of the first true homegrown Dubai AI companies. What we work on is, to summarize it in short, we're building foundational AI to enable storytelling in every language. And what that means is that we get to play around with a lot of speech models, a lot of translation models. Today we've created some of the best performing speech and translation models there are. We've open sourced some of our technology, and it's gained ratification from both the research community, but also today some of the biggest enterprises are using our technology and models to do end-to-end speech localization at scale. So, tomorrow your favorite sports, you can flip a switch and you'll be able to hear it in your favorite language or your native language. And kind of that's the future we're building, from Dubai, which we're very proud of.
And I think this is a point I'd love to talk about, right? Because when people hear about language technologies, traditionally they think about places like Ireland, where the localization industry has kind of been really popular. I'm really curious. So when you were thinking about starting Camb, why Dubai and why DIFC?
Yeah, so to be, very, very transparent, I think starting any company in Dubai has a significant advantage with its time zone and its ability to attract talent into a centralized place. And that's no different for our company, even though it's an AI and localization company. Just operating out of Dubai gives me the ability to have a broad span across basically most of the world in terms of attracting talent. So that's number one. And secondly, us being a localization and internationalization company at its very core means that our team needs to be super diverse, right? We need to know multiple languages. We really need to understand, live and breathe the problem that we're working on. So kind of that why it makes complete sense to be in Dubai for those reasons. But, as our company has evolved in the Dubai ecosystem, it's a new AI ecosystem. It's a young country and ecosystem. We ourselves have kind of reaped the benefits of being in a position and in an ecosystem that is highly ambitious when it comes to its AI goals, highly strategic when it comes to its AI goals, and everything from investment to marketing to even doing fun stuff like this is what we're continually supported by the ecosystem. So I think it makes tremendous sense to be here, be born out of here, and continue operating significantly out of Dubai for us.
Fantastic. And I'm curious, so you mentioned a very diverse team. How many different languages or nationalities do you have on the team?
We are a very small team. We were a tiny, tiny startup, but we already have 14 nationalities on our team, which, the density or like the nationality to person ratio is quite high.
Fantastic. And being in the Middle East, being in Dubai, does that allow you to focus on, say, Arabic languages kind of in a more specialized and a more focused way?
Yeah, so that builds both from the demand locally here and also the talent we're able to attract, natively Arab speaking, and the demand in AI localization for Arabic languages goes down to a dialectal level, which we're able to understand and serve better by being here. But also generally, language is quite beautiful that although it's so different from language to language, in a certain sense, it's unifying. So a lot of the challenges that we face in certain languages do carry over as learnings to other languages as well. And we're not only able to do a better job for Arabic, but more generally other languages as well.
So I'm curious, so you're starting here in Dubai, in DIFC. What's the strategy to go abroad, right? Where are you focused on? Where do you see there are opportunities? And how are you thinking about going abroad from DIFC?
That's a great question. And I think with Camb.ai as a founding team, as an investment team from DFDF, and supported through all the accelerators that we've been through, our thinking has quite changed, right? It's not just about importing AI and building for the ecosystem. I would like to say that Camb.ai today is one of the leading startups when it comes to AI and localization. And what we're unapologetically doing is that we're building AI here, but actually exporting it. Yeah. So building for the world, especially in the context of a localization company, has always been the number one priority. So of course, Dubai and the UAE is a major market for us. We have tremendous partnerships and customers here. But today we're selling everything from California to Australia. And we've, that's what we keep saying, that this is an ecosystem that is helping that kind of thought change, that it's not just like bring AI here and make it available, but really birth AI here and build it for the world.
I know we had a conversation 2 weeks ago with one of our corporate clients, and their HQ is in London. They have significant operations across the world, and you were one of the highlights of the companies that they met with when they were here.
Oh, that's humbling. Thank you.
So I want to kind of come back to something you said. So you mentioned your last round. How much was the last round?
It was around 4.5 million.
4.5 million, and that was led by Future District Fund.
So Future District Fund did have participation in it. Right. It was led by an American VC called Courtside Ventures, which is based out of New York. And it had participation from investors in diverse geographies. But of course, one of our first checks was from DFDF that actually started everything.
So maybe we could talk about Future District Fund. So joint venture between Dubai Future Foundation and DIFC, $250 million fund, exclusively focused on supporting early stage companies in Dubai. Can you maybe talk about what it was like raising money from DFDF, kind of your experience through that process?
Yeah, so I was of course new in the Dubai ecosystem. I'd just moved from California to Dubai, and I was as a knee-jerk reaction to it. People might have questions about new ecosystem and stuff. So I had my reservations or questions going into the investment kind of ecosystem here. But when I met the people at DFDF, it was very clear to me that they were extremely forward-thinking and they knew their stuff, right? Whether it was AI or fintech or anything. So to give you context, right, ChatGPT, I believe, happened November 2022. We had already started talking with DFDF way before that on what company we wanted to build and how we wanted to do it, just playing in the ecosystem and such. It was very clear to me that, while there's a ton of investors internationally that have, gone on the hype train after the generative AI boom, DFDF was, from my personal experience, one of the very few investors that I personally knew of that already kind of saw this coming and that were ready to take a bet on a young, very new company out of Dubai. And today, 1.5 years later, like I said, with their continued support, it's not that they just put in the money and left us alone. Everything from getting us to events, to conferences, to making sure that we have great participation everywhere, and customers and additional funding. They've held and had our back since day one.
That's fantastic to hear, because I think that's the kind of cross-pollination that we want to see, right?
Yeah.
How do we help you with access to corporates? How do we access to other clients? So I know you participated in the Do AI Challenge award a couple of weeks ago, and I think you won that.
Yeah. So I walked into the presentation not knowing that it was a full-blown competition, to be very honest. But it was great.
We kept that under the wraps.
But I went in when we pitched Camb.ai. It was a lot of fun, and there were a lot of great people that we met. We actually had a new customer out of that kind of get together as well. And the voting began, and I was told that you're winning a prize. I was like, well, that's great. I thought I was just like, it's just a chat or something. So that was great. And I met a lot of folks from Do, and I think hopefully we have continuing conversations with potentially how we can work.
Absolutely. I think I think this is part of the strategy at DIFC. How do we be a value-added partner, right? So I think with the Do AI Challenge, I think the strategy there is to get Camb.ai in front of a lot of potential users, a lot of small businesses across the UAE that could absolutely use the services that you're delivering. I want to kind of switch tacks a little bit and kind of geek out a little bit. So I'm really curious. So obviously you're in language technologies, right? And a lot of people talking about large language models. We see the amount of money that's funneled into the likes of OpenAI, Mistral.
Yeah.
How do you compete on that level? Right?
Yeah.
Because there's just so much money funneling into those big platforms.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So just recently, VentureBeat called us the Mistral for speech. And again, when we set context to what exactly we're doing, today, some of our open source technologies are used everything from an MIT labs to labs within Stanford to the open source community. Some of the biggest leagues use our technology. So again, unapologetically, somebody might say that, oh, this is just a tiny young startup out of Dubai. What could they be doing? Right? When they actually hear from us, they're like, oh no. and that's actually very in line with something like Mistral that you brought up. It isn't a classic Silicon Valley company. I mean, they built it off France and have become a global phenomena. So I think as the world is globalizing, and especially governments that have clear strategies on building AI, they will continue to do well. And I do feel that, whether it's us or somebody else from Dubai can be kind of the next place to birth a Mistral. So I think it's very clear in my mind that that's our ambition, that's our goal, and that's the kind of brand we're setting in front of both our stakeholders and people who love us and some people who might not love us either. So I think that's who we are as a team. I, of course, have a background in research, everything from Carnegie Mellon to working on Siri on similar technologies. We have a tremendous R&D team that has written seminal papers in the space of both speech and translation. And, of course, a great business development team as well. That is.
How many PhDs on the team?
We have around 3 PhDs, which is still not enough PhDs to have. We'd always love more PhDs. If anybody's watching, please do join in. But we're a very strong team because we've focused exactly on customer problems, what exact models we want to build. And to kind of take a slight divergence out of that, while yes, the whole world is kind of going crazy after large language models, the future of AI is actually not in large language models, right? Because you can already see even large companies like Meta releasing models like Llama 3.1 that exceed performances of some of the closed source GPTs, but make it open for a lot of people, right? So I genuinely believe that the future of AI at a foundational layer will be actually open source, and it will belong to companies that can build small models as well, that can fit on device, that can be cheap, that can be fully private, right? And as we're continuing to build, we see that, right? And so with Mars 5, one of the recent releases we made, it was one of the most prosodic text-to-speech engines ever created, and we open sourced that. That has led to tremendous ratification, tremendous company growth, and tremendous identification of the company on a global stage. I think that open source with small models is going to be the future rather than just Google or OpenAI occupying the stage.
And how do you find that balance between open source and kind of core IP, kind of your core research innovations? And kind of where I'm coming from this. So we had you in last week to talk to a company. They were blown away by the emotion that was kind of infused in your translation. Is that where the secret sauce is? And is that kind of how you're trying to balance kind of open versus closed?
Yeah, so AI dubbing, essentially, colloquially as it's called, that we do, or speech localization, is a multifaceted problem. Speech is just one part of it, right? But there's many problems that we solve within the company. Everything from colloquial translation to voice preservation to emotion preservation to background score preservation. There's a lot that goes on into delivering experiences like we have in the past, like movies, like sports, etc. And so what open sourcing a particular part of our technology does is it actually helps us accelerate, learn from the community, and make it better. So while we open source Mars 5, Mars 6, our next iteration, is already a significantly better model that's been built on the feedback that we received from Mars 5. Because it's essentially the entire world giving you feedback kind of without the lens of where this company is, who is building it, etc., because it's in the open, right? And that is tremendous. It's very hard to get that in just a closed source environment. So kind of that's the balance that most companies strike between open source and closed source. But of course, we consider ourselves much more than a language translation company. we want to be an ecosystem player. That's one of the reasons we did set up shop in Dubai. We want Dubai to be one of the leading places for AI, which it increasingly is becoming. And as part of this, like whatever we can do in our kind of wheelhouse to promote open source AI, et cetera, in the community, we are doing. So everything from a Coders HQ that has like 12, 13-year-old young developers now using our APIs and models. We love to see that. We've done like a few hackathons at this stage. That is also the kind of stuff that gets us out of bed when we see like a growing ecosystem that we're a part of.
Yeah. And I think that, the ecosystem piece is an important part, right? So DIFC, we're home to, I think, 1,000 companies, fintech companies, over the last 7 years. And I think the ambition is now to do that same thing around AI. So the Dubai AI campus was launched 3 months ago under the patronage of Sheikh Hamdan. The target there is 500 AI companies in the next 3 years. And we're excited that Camb.ai is, I think, one of the very first companies to set up in the AI campus.
I'm calling all my Silicon Valley friends to come set up shop here. Everybody who I know has a great idea to come here, because I've seen the benefits it's brought to Camb.ai being here, from both strategically and being one of the first people here. 100%. What we can do, we'll do to make that a reality.
I love it. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about what are the use cases, right? So you mentioned like lip dubbing being one of the use cases, but I know you've also produced a film that has received a lot of awards. Can you maybe talk about some of the different use cases at Camb?
Yeah, so when I was building this technology, it didn't come across in my wildest imaginations that I'd be at a movie premiere, seeing some of the biggest actors that I saw growing up. So that, I'll come to the use cases, but just from a personal checklist, it has been amazing on the things that we as founders have been able to do through the company. One of them, as you said, is movie dubbing, which is a pretty obvious use case for our technology in being able to transform movies into multiple languages at scale. So we worked with Naila Al-Khaja and her team. She's one of the first Emirati, or probably the first UAE female director. And she created a movie called The Tree, which is a psychological thriller. And we turned that from Arabic to Mandarin, and we actually watched it ourselves in Vox Cinemas. So that is a tremendously gratifying experience, and it's not something that a lot of companies across the world can claim to be doing, where you get a founder to say, like, have you seen your own film in a movie theater? Well, I have.
And psychological thrillers, right? It's not an easy translation.
It's not easy because it has all the jump scares, the spooks. So by itself, in defining it, you probably understand what it takes for our technology to be able to create experiences like that. So that's some of the things we've done, like locally, but even internationally. We've worked with folks like the Australian Open. Earlier January this year, Australian Open became the first sporting body or sporting entity ever in history to use AI, where they had Djokovic and Sinner, their post-match conferences in multiple languages. And that went a little bit viral, and that was Camb.ai technology. We worked with them to do that. And
so
I think
that's live simultaneous translation
in January it was not live, but here's where things get very interesting. In I believe April, we created history. It was the first time in human history that this has happened. We took a live game of any kind, soccer, whatever. It was the first time this ever happened that we worked with somebody as big as Major League Soccer to live transform a game of soccer into multiple languages, 3 languages to be specific, in parallel for over 2 hours. Now that was a feat in many ways, both from an engineering perspective, R&D and AI, and even like enterprise business perspective, right? Because here we're not talking about taking just a single face creator or a TikTok and posting it in multiple languages or something. We're talking about zero shot live that a human can't even intervene in. And one of the biggest leagues in the world working with us to be able to live stream that. So we've actually done that multiple times for them now. And today, you can name your favorite sport, and we're probably already working with them for a POC or for a contract for live sports dubbing. So the use case is to any, a shameless plug here, to any business out there, if you want to 10x your content and reach more people, then Camb.ai is a good idea because we can do it well and we can do it better than most.
And so, I mean, you say you can do it well. And so what are the biggest kind of concerns? If you're translating content, the fidelity of the content, the quality of the content.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you've done some live streams. Now, what has the feedback been from people who have kind of heard the streams?
Yeah, so I wish I could play the recording, but I'll save it right now. We were doing a live stream for a pretty large sporting entity out of Europe, one of the biggest, and I won't name them, but a human sports commentator kind of called us up, and he was shrieking. He was like, "This is exactly Portuguese from Portugal, exactly how it's supposed to be. The tone, the vocabulary, everything." So, of course, generative AI in its holistic nature is actually very hard to evaluate. In fact, in the research community itself, one may ask a question, if we think about text-to-image models, for example, what makes your cat riding on a donkey better than my cat riding on a donkey, right? Like, we make the same image and it becomes awfully subjective. Of course, there are some simple scores that let you evaluate, but the intrinsic ability to judge generative AI is very human in nature.
Yeah.
And so the best way we evaluate and we help evaluate our technology, and we're primarily a B2B company, we work with enterprises, is that we let enterprises define their success criteria, and they have native speakers of their own. And we say, define a success criteria, and we will match it, and don't sign the contract until we do. And we just continually do that, and that's why we're successful in a lot of different places. So I think that, not just as a playbook for us, but any AI company, whether it's a AI dubbing company, whether it's text-to-image company, I think you just need to, case-by-case basis, figure out what is good or what is bad, because at the end of the day, it's extremely subjective.
Before I wrap up, I want to ask you to put your kind of thinking hat on, right? And think about, everybody's talking about AI today, right? But if you project forward 5, 10, 15 years, what are the advances? Like, what are the innovations that you see that are going to be driving the industry forward?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. So I think the place that we are currently is unprecedented, not because of the advancements in AI. Like I mentioned to you, I was working on Siri, and these techniques like RAG and large language models weren't new. Yeah. They just became open when they became a consumer product in ChatGPT. What's unprecedented today is the level of enterprise readiness and adoption. And I think at the end of the day, that's what's going to drive it, right? Yes, there's going to be tremendous research and innovation. From a technical perspective, I think most of my fellow researchers and computer scientists will agree that the transformer-based architectures of large language models is going to kind of reach a flat line on what it's able to do. There will be new architectures that come up that enable AI to really be AGI, as people supposedly think it will. There's going to be new hardware that helps us accelerate faster. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of this is going to be, how do we plug in forward-thinking people in large enterprises that actually challenge the status quo and get new technology in. Because, the technology is there. Even today, you can do a lot of useful things, but it really just depends on how fast and how quickly somebody is willing to adopt it. I'm for sure that if we wanted robots moving around DIFC, which I think we already do have some, we could have a lot more just robots going around here. But it's going to, it is going to be a question of which ecosystem is how ready and willing to take good risks. Yeah. And I think that's why we're here. I think Dubai is that place, or at least one of those places that can become the Silicon Oasis of the future.
Absolutely. Maybe one follow-up. You mentioned AI readiness, right? And the need for kind of AI readiness both across enterprises and government. And I know within Dubai, they just announced 22 chief AI officers across various government agencies. Do you see application of Camb's technology across government in the same way as enterprise?
Yeah, so our models, Mars and Boli, are homegrown. We've built it in-house. That means that we have the ability to actually deploy it on-premise, right? So it won't leave. You can shut off the internet and it'll work. What that gives is a significant adoption advantage and kind of route for governments to start adopting this. And I can't name the entities or government entities we might already be collaborating with, but there are some that we've already started working with. But I do feel that something as basic and as fundamental as language localization, Dubai fundamentally being a multicultural society, every entity, government or not, has a use case for us, whether it's internal training, whether it's external facing, or whether it's kind of ads or really anything you can think of. As long as you want to have content more accessible, we're your solution for it. So 100%. But just in working with government, you need mature solutions that can respect privacy, security. And we feel Camb.ai is at a level where it can achieve that.
Exciting. Akshat, I thank you for taking time with us. It's been a fascinating journey up until now, and we're excited to see where things go in the future.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.